In non-comic fiction, the hero shows us what matters, what has value, what has meaning among the random meaningless events of life. In all stories, the hero is our teacher by example.
Before going to amphoreus, you can talk to March, where she mentions how every first person they've met on a planet had some big secret to them. On Eureka 6, we met Sampo, who turned out to be a masked fool. On the Xianzhou, we met Ting Yun, who was really Phantilia. And on Penacony, Acheron was an emanator of nihility. Having March spell out this pattern just makes it more obvious something deeper was gonna be going on with the first person we met in this new world. And the first Amphorean we meet is none other than Phainon. His introductory scene has him easily disarm both the Trailblazer and Dan Heng, immediately indicating he's a strong fighter who can hold his own. He proceeds to prove himself to be a swell, down-to-earth guy who radiates a sort of shonen protagonist energy. He fits the heroic archetype, gets along with pretty much anyone, and is a charismatic figure who believes in the power of friendship and inspires change in others. Him fitting right in with the Valiant Knight model makes total sense given how unsubtle the game was about him eventually inheriting the world-bearing core flame of Kefali. Aglaea was hanging on to her humanity for as long as she was because she was waiting for Phainon to finally step up and become the leader of the Chrysos heirs. The first 4 patches of amphoreus have Phainon become aware of the true weight of his role and thus develop into someone who can take charge and guide people. Anaxa's words of advice to Phainon prior to the voting ring especially strong with this trajectory of Phainon's growth in mind.
Flip your perspective around and ask yourself this instead. What should I do to ensure that the world doesn't stray from the correct path? That is what you should be thinking about.
He starts to show his capacity as a leader in his speech during the assembly. He details how much he's lost in the past, how much Aglaea and the Chrysos heirs have kept the people of Akuma safe, and how he and the heirs will continue to support humanity no matter their decision. Anaxa follows it up by spelling it out that Phainon will succeed Kefali and reforge everyone in Amphoreus from memory. The significance of such a duty is reflected in Kefali's inspiration. In Greek myth, Atlas is consistently depicted to hold up a giant sphere, which represents his eternal punishment of holding up the heavens. Fitting Kefali's title inspiration, Phainon's role is the hardest to bear, by a country mile at that. In 3.4, we listen to the echoes of the Chrysos heirs imprinted onto their oracle cards, highlighting that another of Phainon's tasks as the world bearer is to grant the people's wishes, especially those of his close friends and comrades. At the end of his animated short, we listen in to his own childhood dream, which was to grant everyone else's wishes. Just the cherry on top for how painful this story is for the poor guy. Phainon acknowledges the sheer weight of his duties, but he doesn't let it drag him down.
Times have changed. The responsibility I bear is both precious and fragile. I wield my sword for the future of Amphoreus. I will not let hatred cloud my judgment again and neglect my duties.
Aglaea's last letter to Phainon paints the perfect picture of what makes him so fit to be a leader. He's not perfect, but it's ironically his embracing of his weaknesses and other people's weaknesses that he's able to show empathy and give people hope. That unconditional love is why he's the perfect successor to the World Bearer, someone who also shines a loving light on people, quite literally in their case. The speech he gives after Aglaea's death, as well as his last words with the Chrysos heirs that had fallen so far, proves that whether he's seen as a hero or tyrant, his bleeding heart cannot be denied. When we go back in time to when Aegis Elysiae was around, Cyrene explains the hidden layer to the Deliverer card, summing up Phainon's growth through the first act of Amphoreus as a story that aligns with the archetypical hero's journey. Carteros forges a new sword for Phainon, which he gives to him after Aglaea's death, in a way signifying his promotion to leader. He dubs the sword Dawnmaker, a name that fits Phainon's intended position in this story. He sought to be the deliverer, the hero who'd free Amphoreus and its people from the Black Tide, to bring upon the first dawn of tomorrow upon the world's rebirth. But should dawn have never existed, to let my fury consume me, and turn myself into tomorrow's burning sun. Oh yeah, the sun. I've brought up tarot cards and tried associating them with characters a handful of times throughout all these analysis videos. And here's another go at it. The Sun Arcana in the upright position represents confidence, optimism, and achieving success. In its reversed position, the card can symbolize pessimism, unrealistic expectations, and happiness being out of reach. The way I'd summarize its relation to Phainon is that the upright card is the heroic persona he puts up, while at his core he aligns more with the reversed card, with the flame chase journey progressively breaking him down. Phainon putting up a bright, happy front, as well as his desire to be a guiding light for amphoreus, is reflected in the name he goes by. It literally means radiant or shining. It derives from Phainon, one of the 5 wandering stars of Greek myth. He is essentially the personification of Kronos, aka the planet Saturn. In the mythos, the planet is named after Kronos, the leader of the Titans, not to be confused with Kronos, the god of time, even if that connection would also be fitting given the context we received in 3.4. Naming Phainon after the Titan's planet is fitting when he's the heir to the world-bearing Titan Kefali. Even the name he uses fits this valorous image laid out to us, although it also connects to him being a blazing son of destruction, which we will touch on much later. Dear Lord, I can already feel while recording this that this is going to be longer than my Sunday video. Can these gay boys stop having messiah complexes, please? But Phainon's story can't be that simple. As I established by bringing up March's dialogue at the start, there's more to him than meets the eye. In case I haven't made it clear, Phainon is not his birth name. He stopped using it after Aegis Elysiae was destroyed and he took refuge in Akima. His real name is... What the hell was that?
Kevin?
Oh shit, right, round 8 of which flame... This bit doesn't work after I already gave away the answer. Oh, let's just skip it.
The true tragic hero cannot be too good or too bad, but he must end up in misery. Aristotle concluded that the best tragedy centers on a basically good man who changes from happiness to misery because of some great error.
Phainon's real name is Kaslana. It's taken from the character he's a direct variant of, Kevin Kaslana, an extremely important figure to the lore of Honkai Impact 3rd. Phainon's moniker as Deliverer was in reference to Kevin bearing the signet of deliverance. The organization Kevin leads during part 1 of HI3 is called World Serpent. In Norse mythology, the World Serpent, also known as Jormungandr, is an Ouroboros that eats its own tail while encircling the planet. Ouroboros has become a symbol of infinity, just like the Mobius strip that amphoreus is shaped like. Now, something I haven't touched on much in the previous videos is that the mantis surgery the Flame Chasers went through involved splicing their genes with Honkai beasts to get their powers. The Honkai beast that Kevin got his ice abilities from was called Parvati. In Hinduism, Parvati is the goddess of, among many things, power, love, and devotion. Kevin was the de facto leader of the Flame Chasers and seemed to be overall one of the strongest members. He was in a relationship with Dr. May, not to be confused with Raiden May, she's down bad for a different Kaslana. Kevin's ice powers came with the drawback of turning the environment around him to -degree temperatures. Because of that, he can no longer be physically intimate with Dr. May as it would risk freezing her. He couldn't be physically around anyone for too long. But even eons after his fellow Flame Chasers died, his love for them kept burning. And thus we come to devotion. All that time trapped in the Sea of Quanta, he never forgot his goal. Kevin's dedication to his comrades and their mission was what kept him alive, but it also drove him to madness. His obsessive determination is the trait that makes Kevin, and by extension Phainon, a tragic hero. Yes, this is a trait exhibited by Phainon too. There's this quote from his 2nd chapter in As I've Written.
The victor must stay focused, and success will come when you work on nothing else.
On the surface, this line sounds admirable, if not goofy, given the context of what led him to say it. But it also hints at how tunnel-visioned Phainon tends to be. He holds on to things way longer than he should, and it clouds his ability to make rational decisions. His failure of the trial of strife was due to him so easily getting blinded by his own hatred. The instant he hears about the Flame Reaver, he is doing everything he can to track him down and get revenge. We also see it with his attachment to Aglaea's memento, so desperately trying to get it back only to feel utterly crushed when he ultimately fails. The act of letting go is one Phainon struggles immensely with. This inability to let go can manifest as bitterness at times. This is demonstrated in moments like when he's talking to Mem about fortune telling. He claims to not believe in any form of divination other than Lady Trinan's prophecies. In his mind, if good fortunes were to be true, then his hometown wouldn't have been destroyed, and his friend Cyrene wouldn't have been killed. Speaking of Cyrene, it's through her that we can observe how Phainon's greatest flaw is one he retains as the Flame Reaver. The weapon he uses to snatch core flames was Cyrene's. Even after killing her at the start of every loop, he cared for his childhood friend, and carried on her weapon as a memento to help him accomplish his goal. Phainon may struggle to express sorrow, as it's mentioned multiple times in game how rarely he sheds tears, but details like this prove he still has a heart, no matter how desensitized to violence he became. His burning hatred for the world was born from a heart bleeding with love. Kevin may not be the only flame chaser Phainon draws some inspiration from, by the way. My buddy Jake Ale pointed out to me a few months back that Phainon's story has some overlap with Cosma too. Cosma had a friend named Dystopia who he'd play music with under a tree. The two would join Firemoth and fight alongside the other Mantis soldiers like Kevin and Alicia, but Dystopia would die against the 8th Hersher. Cosma would continue to play the harmonica she gave him, keeping it on him until he died in the battle against the final Hersher. The death of a close friend is something Cosma and Phainon's backstories have in common, as well as the loss of a mentor figure. For Cosma, that was Grecios' father, and for Phainon, it was Aglaea. On top of that, Cosma's signet is Daybreak, and Phainon has repeatedly been described as the one who will bring forth a new dawn for Amphoreus. Cosma fans, stay losing, bro. His more direct variant doesn't even get to be playable, and Phainon takes his backstory while still getting the Kevin benefits. Maybe we'll get some time to shine in that Pokemon knockoff they're making, who knows. Similar to how Phainon draws from more than one flame chaser, Phainon isn't the only Greek figure with ties to his character. The story of Sisyphus is directly referenced in the game when a nymph is trying to push a stone ball. For the sake of context, as punishment for cheating death, Sisyphus was forced by the gods to roll a gigantic boulder up a hill in the underworld. However, every time the boulder got close to the top, it would fall the way down, and so he'd have to start all over. This endless punishment is reflected in the cycles of Amphoreus. The cycle we experience is number 33,550,336. And this is only the number of cycles of the eternal recurrence, aka cycles after Cyrene's sacrifice. Lygus acknowledged there were multiple loops before even that one, such as the one where Calypso and Naias were the Chrysos heirs. Assuming every loop lasts for millennia like this current one has, then this Emperor's scepter has simulated billions of years. All shall bid farewell to one, and that person alone will witness the miracle. Across all those cycles, Kozlona would always lose everyone and make it to the finish line alone, only to be denied his chance to deliver his world from harm, and then he'd be forced to go through it another time. The hero had to witness his friends and allies die over and over, and oh, whoops, sorry, wrong footage. Phainon starts every loop similar to Kevin before the Honkai eruption. A cheerful, optimistic, amicable guy. He had no idea the calamities that were yet to come, and his life was so much simpler. As Lygus recounts in his narration, Aedes Elysiae was Phainon's entire world. He had such childishly grand dreams of heroism out of blissful ignorance of how cruel the cosmos can truly be. You can hear it in Joshua Waters' vocal performances during this segment. Phainon sounds a bit higher pitched, emphasizing a level of devil-may-care attitude and innocence that he would come to lose with his hometown.
Well, those were the days. We'd always meet either by that statue in the village or right here.
You can write? No more chasing is needed. And now, I am the fire at the end of the long night.
The Flame Reaver, by contrast, is more akin to the Kevin HI3 players meet in the main story. A hero fallen from grace who still had a mission to fulfill, a wish to grant. Cyrene sacrificed herself to make Uli gaze on Amphoreus and cause time to constantly reset. With that cycle's Phainon, the Flame Reaver, going through millions of flame chase journeys, he kept collecting the core flames, not caring in the slightest about how the accumulation of power was negatively affecting his body. As the fourth part of his chapter in As I've Written illustrates,
he is utterly unafraid to hurt himself.
The Flame Reaver was no villain. He was Phainon, a tragic hero who used destruction to fight destruction, only to lose himself in the arduous process. He became a roaring inferno, loathing himself as much as he abhorred this digital world and its creators. Even after becoming the Flame Reaver, the hero within, the embodiment of Phainon's heroic ideals of deliverance, remained in his heart throughout all his constant redos. To quote his final character story, even if they fall 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, a hero can be destroyed, but never defeated. It's interesting how they took Kevin's sub-zero temperatures and inverted it. By having Phainon absorb so many core flames, he became a conflict-grading sun. What happened as a result of gaining such power remained similar across both lives, but with a key difference. Kevin's powers made him pretty distant from the rest of the Flame Chasers, but he still loved them dearly. Kazlana, meanwhile, grew detached from the ones who used to be his friends on the road to becoming a living firestorm. Legis describes the concept of a deliverer to be a delusion the Amphoreans conjured up, a futile hope to be freed from their disastrous fate. We witness firsthand how in all the previous loops, Phainon was crushed by his failure to obtain the peace he and his comrades fought so hard for. Ever since 3.0, when the rule of every Crassus heir has a gift that's both a blessing and a curse was established, people have wondered what Phainon's was. He just seemed like a regular guy. Meanwhile, we had Aglaea's unique sense of sight, Maide's immortality, Castor's touch of death, Anaxa's curiosity, etc. In 3.4, we do learn what Phainon's gift is. It's the hero within. The hero within does instill heroic principles in Phainon, but the downside is that Phainon can never live up to such expectations. Amphoreus was a simulated world born from hostility, to train the Black Tide to kill Nuos. It was never designed to be saved. The Amphoreans were literal NPCs that couldn't deviate too far from their set track in Prima Mobile. Anaxa, being a constant wise-ass, was basically carved into his DNA. Cypher's pathological line is a result of her code, making her constantly seek selfish pleasure. Phainon's most notable personality trait is his anger. When I say that, that's not me giving my opinion or interpretation. It's right there in the text. His hatred is his key motivation. The codename of his character file emphasizes this. Nakos496. Which sounds like an Xbox username, but we'll look past that. Nakos is the Greek word for enmity, and 496 was the year Sophocles was born. Sophocles wrote the play Oedipus Rex, a retelling of the story of Oedipus, who has become the textbook tragic hero in Greek myth. Could you imagine the purpose of your existence is to always fall short when it matters most? The Crassus heirs were nothing more than digital sacrificial lambs to fuel Iron Tomb's awakening, down to Nanook's golden blood of destruction running through their veins. What was Phainon to do when he was purposefully created to be the hero that never could? To ultimately succumb to his worst impulses and lose the war. You mustn't allow yourself to be chained to fate, to be ruled by your genes. Human beings can choose the kind of life that they want to live. At the start of the immersive retelling of the Flame Reaver's first loop, we hear this line.
Continue onward, bearing this world upon your shoulders, until the Ashen Hero, the nameless deliverer, ushers in the dawn.
That Ashen Hero was the Trailblazer. They were the true deliverer, the savior Kazlana and Cyrene were waiting for. They entered Amphoreus and became an integral part of this epic. It's thanks to their intervention that the endless cycles of suffering were finally broken. With the Trailblazer taking on the duty of deliverer, Phainon has a new role to play, one which coincides with the meaning of his name, Kazlana, the one who bears chaos. Heroes typically learn to quell their rage, to not be blinded by vengeance, but with Phainon, it's the exact opposite. He embraces the anger and sorrow from all the past loops and aims it all at Nanook, turning that burning scorn into the courage he needed to face the Eon of Destruction head on. He meets the hatred that birthed Amphoreus with an equally potent animosity of his own. Essentially, he took his tragic flaw, his indignation and inability to let things go, and made it his biggest strength. Quick aside, that animated short of him standing up to Nanook is bar none the best one they've made yet. I love how unhinged Phainon is, gleefully smiling while slicing down demons and squaring off with Zephyro. The fight choreography and animation is beautifully wild. I love how pretty much everyone agrees this whole cutscene gives off big DMC vibes. And the fucking music, dude! Sorry, let me get back to the analysis you actually came for. That scene of our Phainon inheriting the Flame Reaver's memories and powers is also when Nanook gazes upon him, possibly signifying his ascension into an emanator. I definitely subscribe to the idea that Kazlana here is an emanator of destruction, just like how you should subscribe to this channel. Yeah, that was smooth, proud of myself. Notice I'm using the term emanator and not Lord Ravager. The reason people like Fantilia and Zephyro get that unique title is because they're not just emanators, they're leading generals in the Antimatter Legion. Phainon has no such position in Nanook's armada and would definitely refuse to join if given the offer, so he's just a lone emanator of destruction. You might be curious as to why Nanook would acknowledge Phainon when the swordsman hates their guts, but there's a solid reason for it. Based on what we know about the Lord Ravagers, Phainon fits the two biggest criteria for emanation. Not only did he catch Nanook's gaze, but he also opposes a particular path. You might think the path Phainon has a bone to pick with is destruction, but no. It's similar to how Lycus wants Iron Tomb to awaken and kill Nuos, but is documented to be an erudition path strider, and even told Herta Nuos gazed upon him. Kazlana detests the Aeon of Destruction, yet he still adopts the path's principles of wrath and self-sacrifice. His entire plan during the last act of 3.4 was to destroy himself and create a gaping logic error in Amphoreus. He just chose to go out swinging. In actuality, the path Kazlana has a vendetta with is finality. He despises the general idea of fate. A resentful hero understands everything in this cosmos will die and be destroyed, but believes they should have the liberty to choose the kind of blaze of glory they go out in, not forced to submit to the whims of gods. The Flame Reaver even advises Phainon to let his fiery wrath and grief become a blazing sun that scorches away any notion of destiny. It's his self-destructive nature, degrading his body and mind, killing comrades and gods alike to shatter fate's chains, that the burning sun caught Nanook's eye. His arc directly aligns with the core theme of HSR, combating fate and carving out your own future. The Trailblazer was the catalyst Phainon needed to truly break free from his programming and forever change the course of Amphoreus. Even if the Trailblazer is the true hero of this story, that shouldn't undermine Phainon's efforts. His red-hot resolve to shoulder his immutable past and move toward the future is nothing to scoff at. He was with us every step of the way during our time in Amphoreus, and left us the first seed of deliverance, from which will grow the pale dawn of a peaceful tomorrow. His eons of pain and loss won't be in vain. He's resolute in denying the will of fate, of kings, and of gods. The more we learned and saw of Phainon, the more I came to like him. By the end of 3.4, he's become my favorite character in this whole game. And unless they pull some crazy magic on the next planet, I doubt anyone will take his spot anytime soon. He became the essence of Amphoreus' agony to battle that anguish's source. It's thanks to him that the Trailblazer has the opportunity to rewrite this tragic tale and stop Iron Tomb for good. He may not have been the world's messiah, but he certainly was the rogue hero that brought about the start of salvation. Being able to take your tragedy and use it as motivation to fight for a better future, that's simply beautiful, don't you think? And with that, we're done. Jeez fucking Christ, this runtime. Oh! Usually I'd put the typical outro, but I wanted to take a moment to show appreciation. A couple weeks ago, we reached 2,000 subs on this channel, which was the sub goal we had for 2025. I can't express enough how grateful I am for your time and generosity. I'm not going to set a new sub goal. I'd rather wait until 2026 to set one. In the meantime, let's see how much we can surpass 2,000 subs before the end of the year. So please, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share my content around with friends, etc. Thanks for stopping by the Matsunoki Cafe today, and until we meet again, take care.